Bronner from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. State wildlife officials have identified the pipeline they say is responsible for another oil sheen spotted off the Southern California coast. The sheen was first detected Wednesday about a mile from Bolsa Chica State Beach, and some tar balls reportedly came ashore Thursday in Huntington Beach. The State Department of Fish and Wildlife says the responsible party is a company called Decor LLC. It was the second oil sheen spotted in the Huntington Beach area in about a week, but officials said the earlier sighting was not thought to be caused by a damaged pipeline. News brought to you by Rooter Hero. Half of the singing duo They is being sued by a producer who says he was wrongfully fired. The producer says he was fired earlier this year for complaining about work conditions and being paid only $7 an hour. He also says he didn't get credit for a Casey Musgraves song. Southland weather from KFI. Rain should let up and sun come out with a 30% chance of rain later in the afternoon. Then rain Monday, sun Tuesday, good chance of rain then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We lead local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Mark Ronner.
Checking KFI traffic, we do have a crash in Riverside on the 250 northbound of Martin Luther King Boulevard. That is blocking the left shoulder. To Indio on the 10 eastbound after the 86, the Big Rig fire has only the left lane open. Traffic is backed up to Jefferson Street. And to downtown LA on the 101 southbound at the 110, a crash blocking the right lane. KFI in the sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan Weiss.
Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to mac and cheese. Yes to topping it with cheesy Parmesan crisp. And yes to putting it all on a sandwich. The new grilled mac and cheese sandwich. Get $1 delivery when you order on the app. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
Award season is almost here.
Our radio national game.
And the biggest names in music are saving the date.
We're so excited
for our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
Wow, this is unbelievable.
Coming back to Fox, March 22nd.
Thank you so much.
Live from Los Angeles.
It's crazy. We've come such a long way.
Thank you all. Thanks to the fans. Thank you, iHeart.
Thank you so much for supporting us throughout our careers.
Make plans to join us and find out who will go home a winner.
This means the world to us.
At our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Awards.
Being in the Army National Guard is about more than serving your country. It's about being there for your community when your neighbors need you most. The Army National Guard makes college affordable, and serving part-time can help you graduate debt-free. Do you want to stay close to friends and family? The Guard allows you to serve close to home. Serving part-time in the Army National Guard lets you have the life you want. Learn more by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the California Army National Guard. Aired by the California Broadcasters Association and this station.
Panera believes in saying yes to the good things. Yes to chicken sausage and pepperoni. Yes to flavorful tomato sauce and rich cheeses. And yes to putting it all on a crispy flatbread. The new sausage and pepperoni flatbread. Order on the app today. Panera. Live your yes. Restrictions apply.
At Uline, the prevailing opinion is, if you don't live it, you don't believe it. The people at Uline believe in hard work, and they live it by being there 24/7 to answer your call, having 38,000 items in stock, and offering same-day shipping from 12 locations across North America. Business owners, sellers, buyers, shippers, and packers believe it. Uline is the hard-working, dependable source for your shipping and industrial supplies. Visit uline.com.
All right.
People don't understand chemical castration.
I used to think, take away your man marbles. They just take them away.
Frozen, and 4:32.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
We're going to be fine.
That doesn't sound like you're going to be fine.
We're going to be fine.
The Tim Conway Jr. Show.
It sounds like it's our last word.
Weeknights at 6 on KFI.
KFI, AM 640. More stimulating talk.
Live.
KFI AM 640.
Local.
And our radio station.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. About 60 miles north of Los Angeles, Lockheed Martin has a super-secret aircraft and weapons facility called Skunk Works. The U-2 spy plane and F-117 Nighthawk were both developed there, and Lockheed is currently jockeying for a role in the Air Force's next fighter jet program. Skunk Works just opened a new state-of-the-art factory and invited journalists to tour it, but in a very secretive manner, with much of the travel around the campus in underground tunnels. For more on all this, we'll speak to Lee Hudson, defense reporter at Politico.
Yeah, it was a really cool opportunity. It's huge. Their campus in Palmdale is over 539 acres, and I saw a very small sliver of that. They brought a group of reporters to see their new factory. They're calling it the Factory of the Future. What they wanted to showcase was that they're using new methods for them to produce aircraft and other types of weapons. But it's very similar to the way that the automotive industry is building automobiles, and they've been doing it for a long time. It's just newer for the defense world.
So you mentioned in the article, there was two reasons really why they were opening this up to reporters, and one was for their new factory, the grand opening of their new factory. But the other thing was to drum up support for more Pentagon business. Obviously, Lockheed Martin is in that business, and they want that funding. So one of the things that they're trying to get into is the next fighter jet program, and that's going to be called the Next Generation Air Dominance. What are they buying for, trying to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been mixed messages coming out of the Pentagon. It sounds like the Air Force wants something that could be possibly unmanned for that. And then the Navy is also working on its own next generation fighter program. And it sounds like they want a manned platform. But the reason Lockheed Martin is concerned is because with the new Biden administration, they're looking to cut the budget, reduce the budget. And so they were just trying to highlight, hey, these new technologies, it is important to fund them to keep us up to date with potential adversaries like China or Russia.
So tell us some of the cool stuff that you got to see there, because you mentioned in the article too how secretive everything is on that campus, obviously. The travel, a lot of it is done in underground tunnels. It sounds very spy-like, but what were they doing and what did they show off to you?
Yeah, so we started off at the visitor center. It's kind of like just going to the airport. You go through a metal detector and show your ID. And then we went into a conference room for some briefing. And then after that, that's where it got cooler. They took us from the conference room to an underground tunnel, and we walked through it for a little bit. I think maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. And we got to another facility on their campus, and they showed us again building the X-59, which is a NASA program to build a supersonic aircraft that is much quieter than, say, the Concorde. And then the idea is potentially to use it for consumer travel because the aircraft would be able to fly over land because you wouldn't feel the supersonic boom sound.
Yeah, I think they said that they're trying to make the sonic boom sound like a car door closing, so I mean, if they can impressive there. You mentioned too, roughly 85% of the work done there at Skunk Works is classified, so very little that they can actually show you guys in person.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, when we went into that last corner of the factory to see the X-59, when you turn around, it's all this empty space because they had moved out everything else that they were working on, and you could see this steel wall go up and down the sides. I asked one of the comms representatives there what that was, and she said they jokingly refer to it as the Great Wall, and they use it to divide up different areas of the factory.
Yeah. I love that you also mentioned that the factory had this kind of new car smell, just about, so new and everything. You mentioned them showing off kind of the future of what they can do there, and things have been done in such an old way for so long. A lot of digital engineering is going in this, and being able to digitally transmit information because everything was done manually or on paper before.
Right, it's pretty crazy. You would never think somebody building, this high-tech aircraft, they're actually just so used to using pen and paper, and so it's pretty revolutionary for them to be opening up this new factory where they can use digital files.
There are 4 types of pictures and this is a picture. There are just and this is a picture.
Potential, adversaries or other countries' spies, they couldn't hack into the system there.
And finally, what other things are they working on? You mentioned the supersonic jet, but they're also working on these hypersonic weapons development and seeing some other things. And I think that some other projects like Speed Racer, which is a little unclear what's going on.
Speed Racer is something that the Air Force announced in 2020, and we weren't really sure, reading, the defense journalism community, we weren't really sure what it was, because they just showed us a photo, and it looked like a cruise missile or a UAV, an unmanned aircraft coming out of another aircraft. And so what they revealed to us at Skunk Works was that it's part of a larger program that Skunk Works is working with the Pentagon on digital engineering. And this is one of the first projects that has been, since inception, that use digital engineering that Skunk Works has worked on. And so they were just showing us, how that changed the way they thought about things and approached different aspects of their production work. And then another technology that they're working on are hypersonic weapons, which are really important for the United States right now because China and Russia are also developing their own hypersonic weapons, and the United States is actually behind in that arena. So the Pentagon is pouring tons of money to various defense contractors, including Lockheed Martin, to come up with different hypersonic weapons, whether they're shot from the air, from a B-52, or whether they're shot from a surface ship or even a submarine. They're trying different things.
It's a lot of cool stuff, and just to kind of put a pin in how secretive all this is, one of the presenters told you guys, for many of you, this is the last time you're going to be in this facility, or this may be the last time you're going to be in this facility, so even just giving you the heads up, you're never coming back here again. Lee Hudson, defense reporter at Politico, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on Kfi Am 640. When we come back, we'll tell you about the fight over hacking McDonald's ice cream machines.
In 1982, Melissa Tate identifies Rodney Lincoln as her mother's killer. Then in 2015, Melissa says Rodney didn't do it. On the Real Killer podcast, Leah Rothman reveals what may be a miscarriage of justice.
It was one of the most brutal crimes in St. Louis history. A single mother murdered. Her two young daughters barely survived the attack. I'm on a mission to find the real killer.
Listen to The Real Killer on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Research shows that when a parent consistently responds to an infant's needs, a trusting relationship and lifelong attachment develops. Babies who are held and comforted when they need it during the first 6 months of life tend to be more secure and confident as toddlers and older children. This is just one of the reasons why California's paid family leave program provides partial wage replacement benefits to California workers who take time off from work to bond with a new child.
This is your moment. The first of many moments as a new father to come that really do matter. Moments you'll never forget and moments you can never get back. This is your moment to put in the work where it really counts. At home with your newborn. Paid family leave can provide new fathers up to 8 weeks of partial wage replacement to bond with your new baby. This is your moment. Take it. To learn more, visit CaliforniaPaidFamilyLeave.com. Moments matter.
We have a lot to celebrate this holiday season, but COVID-19 hasn't gone away. So let's make sure to keep our celebration safer by following these tips. Get vaccinated to protect loved ones, and get a booster to keep your immunity strong. Wear a mask in all public indoor settings, and if possible, keep gathering small, short, and outdoors if you're uncertain of everyone's vaccination status. Bring on the cheer safely this year. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Dental Air Conditioning is contractor license number 1047781.
This is Ken Goodrich of Ghetto Air Conditioning and Plumbing.
You've already heard the story of how my dad asked me to hold the flashlight for him at night while he worked on air conditioners. Dad knew he was dying, but I didn't. You know the story. Anyway, one of the things Dad would have me do is replace all the screws the previous repair guys left out when they reassembled the unit. My job was to find every missing screw and replace it with a brand new one. I still do that today, and so do all my guys. When motors are whirling and compressors are compressing and electrical contacts are doing their thing, those non-stop vibrations caused by missing screws will cause your system to die long before it's time. That's why we tighten your unit down to factory fresh condition on every service call. My guys are perfectionists. No squeaks, rattles, or hums. And don't forget our awesome duct tester. Gettle. GOETTL. It'll keep you cool, but it's hard to spell. Call us.
Our 2021 iHeartRadio Music Festival, the ultimate once-in-a-lifetime music event, is coming to the CW. The biggest superstars in music finally step back on stage. Featuring Coldplay, Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, J. Cole, Khalid, Darius Rucker, Cheap Trick, Journey, and more. iHeartRadio Music Festival. 14 acts, one stage, one television network.
Saturday morning at 12:30 the GVWR.
Portions of the following program will be recorded. I was a young lady, right? When I was, young and one of the better surfers and
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Let's not get into...
You know how I know that's not true? Because you told the story about when you went to college and you had like a surf class and you never went.
Water skate. Yeah, when I never went to water skate, so I was too busy surfing.
Weeknights at 6 on KFI. KFI, live and everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
I know the weight of the world seems to rest on your shoulders, and sometimes life seems like it's filled only with confusion and chaos. But I assure you, I have a plan for you.
The Jesus Christ Show, this morning at 6 on KFI AM 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. Finally, for this week, how many times have you gone into a McDonald's for a nice frozen treat, only to be told that the ice cream machine is broken? One couple attempted to get to the bottom of why Taylor ice cream machines that McDonald's uses are always breaking, and found there's a secret repair menu that most workers don't know how to access, which forces them to contact the manufacturer for maintenance. For more on this story and the fight over hacking McDonald's ice cream machines, we'll speak to Andy Greenberg, senior writer at Wired.
Jamie Sullivan, who is one of the co-founders of this little company that you referenced called Kitch, Kytch, he and his partner, Melissa Nelson, they basically observed that there was this terrible problem with McDonald's ice cream machines. And I just checked, actually, the number of McDonald's ice cream machines that are broken today in the U.S. well, it's about 8%, which is enormous for a fast food chain. But in New York City, where I live, it's 20%. Like 1 in 5 New York City McDonald's ice cream machines are offline right now, according to McBroken.com, which is a site that tracks this really closely. So this is a real issue, and this little tiny company, I mean, it's basically just Melissa and Jeremy, to be honest. But at some point, they started to grow, and then thanks to McDonald's and Taylor's efforts, they kind of big squash. But their goal was to sell this tiny device that you would hack a McDonald's ice cream machine. And this was something that they were selling to franchisees, the owners of McDonald's restaurants, to put inside of their Taylor ice cream machine. And essentially, it would intercept all the data inside of it and then send it out to a web interface or an app and allow you to kind of monitor the conditions of the machine and prevent it from breaking. And it works really well, according to a lot of the franchisees that I spoke to who have been using it. But then, as you might imagine, Taylor, the ice cream machine maker, was not happy about this. And McDonald's, their kind of corporate ally, together these two companies essentially went after Kitch and destroyed their business, more or less.
Right.
So I tried to tell the story here as kind of, 2-year-long war between these massive fast food superpowers and this tiny little company. And Kitch is now essentially just starting to counterattack, and they're planning a lawsuit against some of the franchisees who gave their device to Taylor for it to be analyzed, and then also likely Taylor itself and maybe even McDonald's too.
Right. Let's take a little step back and talk about the machine, because O'Sullivan, the way he puts it, he says it's kind of a shakedown. Franchisees really have very limited information on how to monitor the device. That's why you have to call out the distributors and to come and fix them. So Taylor will sell these franchisees this complicated machine. It's very fragile. They don't give them all the information on how to fix it or why it's constantly being broken. Distributors come out and fix it, and everybody makes a lot of money on that front. So that's kind of how it goes. But let's talk about the machines themselves, because they are pretty sophisticated on one front, super simple on another front, and I guess O'Sullivan kind of said they're kind of like an Italian sports car. when they're working perfectly, they work great, but any little tiny thing that breaks down, then it becomes a huge mess. So let's talk about why these machines are so special.
Well, that wasn't actually Jeremy who said that. That was this other source who calls him or herself McD Truth, and they're an anonymous Twitter account that basically analyzes McDonald's secrets, and they are also a franchisee themselves, and so they know a lot about how these restaurants operate. And yeah, McD Truth was the one who described it as like an Italian sports car, where when it works well, it's an incredible display of efficiency, and they can put out like 10 ice cream cones in a minute with one of these things. But they just break constantly because they're very fragile and finicky and over-engineered. And you have to disassemble them every 2 weeks to clean them, and there are so many parts that practically nobody is capable of reassembling it reliably. There are like 25 or more different tiny rubber O-rings that you have to put all in the correct place or it breaks. It just doesn't work. Things like that. So this is essentially like it's kind of like a NASA level of complexity for an ice cream machine.
Right.
And that's not a great idea when, these are often operated by, high school age teenagers who are not very invested in their fast food careers and don't know the ins and outs of all these technicalities.
It also has 2 hoppers and 2 barrels, so you can do a milkshake and a soft serve simultaneously. Not all the machines are capable of that. The ones that they sell to McDonald's are. And then they have this 4-hour cleaning process, a heat treatment. If anybody's gone to a McDonald's overnight and they say, oh, the machine's cleaning right now, this is the other thing of why they might be out of service a lot of times, is because they go through this rigorous 4-hour cleaning treatment, and if it messes up, it's got to start all over. So that's another big component to this.
This heat treatment is really interesting because if you don't have this kind of pasteurization feature in the machine, then the restaurant owner has to throw out all of the ice cream at the end of every day that's left in the machine. And so instead, this machine can heat it up and basically kill all the microbes inside the ice cream mix before it's refrozen, which is kind of gross, but also probably more sanitary than a lot of other machines. But the problem is that cycle constantly fails in these machines, according to all the franchisees that I talked to, for reasons that are often really difficult to figure out. And when it fails, you have to start it all over. It takes 4 hours. There are sometimes prime time sales hours, and the error messages that the machine shows you when it fails are totally inscrutable sometimes, and you have to call out Taylor's technician to make sense of them. When in fact, maybe it's just you have like too much mix, like in one of the hoppers that's been overfilled just slightly. That's enough to make it break, and you have to spend hundreds of dollars to figure that out by calling a technician. And that's the kind of thing that Kitch was designed to fix. But Taylor, Kitch at least accuses them of essentially running this racket where they basically want to make money from maintenance more than they want their machines to work.
Oh, right. And it runs up in the thousands for some of these franchisees who have to constantly call them out to service the machine. A little bit back to Jeremy O'Sullivan and how he got involved in all this. He wanted to get in on the frozen yogurt craze, but he wanted to create an automated machine. I think early on they called it the Frobot. And what he was working with was a Taylor machine. And it started having some limited success. He got into a few places, into a few football stadiums, I think it was. And then they started breaking down. He had to meet certain requirements. So this is why he kind of later changed the name of the company. This is why he formed that device, so that he can start hacking into it and monitoring it for himself instead of having to constantly going out and making the service trips himself.
Yeah, exactly. Jeremy and Melissa, their first business model was to try to create essentially like a frozen yogurt robot that would be fully automated, and it was built around a Taylor machine, like a kind of cabinet with a big screen and a credit card reader, so that you could take people and real estate out of the equation and sell people frozen yogurt, just like in Handles or a Pinkberry or whatever. But the problem was that they discovered was that they couldn't keep these Taylor machines inside of the Frobot running. It was just constantly breaking down. They were having to drive out to the football stadium that you referenced to rebuild the Taylor machine inside of Frobot all the time. And so they built this little device that essentially was their solution to try to save their business, to monitor the data inside of that Taylor machine to try to figure out why it was breaking, and then eventually gave up on Frobot and made that little device their entire business instead, and which was a much more successful business. At some point, they had 500 of these little Kitsch devices, which have a subscription plan inside of ice cream machines in McDonald's around the country. They were doubling the number of them every quarter, and they're planning to have more than 1,000 by the end of 2020. Before McDonald's and Taylor essentially cracked down on them.
Right, and that's the final part to this now. They had success with that Kitsch device. Franchisees were getting it. Other people that had these Taylor machines were getting it and kind of cracking the code and helping themselves out a little bit. But then Taylor got involved. They tried to place order for these devices. McDonald's, as you mentioned, we think that a franchisee might have got the device and sent it over to Taylor, and McDonald's got involved and said to send emails to their franchisees, you can't use these devices, and in the end, they essentially killed Jeremy's business with it.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it began really with Taylor trying to buy the device, probably just to check it out. Taylor is also now selling a competitive device, their own internet-connected ice cream machine that monitors the data in a very similar way, but it's still in testing. After working on this for a very long time, and Kitsch has been out for 2 years, Taylor still doesn't have a competitor truly on the market. But anyway, they were trying to get their hands on a Kitsch device. Kitsch believes that they used private investigators to try to get one. Ultimately, they did get one. It sounds like through a franchisee who essentially Kitsch is accusing him of violating his contract by handing it over to Taylor, and he will probably be involved in this lawsuit, unfortunately for him. McDonald's, I guess in an act of kind of loyalty to its longtime equipment supplier, Taylor, in fact, sells the grills to McDonald's as well as the ice cream machines. They took Taylor's side and sent this email to every franchisee that tells them that Kitsch breaches the confidential data of the ice cream machines and can even cause physical injury to staff in a restaurant, which all the franchisees that I spoke to thought was pretty far-fetched. I mean, it's possible this thing could hurt someone if you turn the ice cream machine on remotely, but Taylor tells you to unplug it when you're working on it regardless. So, if you're following that rule, then there is no risk, I don't believe. So this seems to me to be much more like a heavy-handed way of killing off a competitor, but a competitor who actually was trying to make these machines work, and if you want McDonald's ice cream, if that's your goal, if you want to go into McDonald's and actually be able to buy their ice cream, then it seems like a very minor tragedy that McDonald's and Taylor teamed up to destroy this little business.
Yeah, and even at the height of the price and subscription that Kitsch was charging franchisees and all, they still said they were saving much more money than having the distributors come out and service the machine. So it's an amazing story. There's a lot of details we couldn't get to, so I suggest everybody go out and check Andy's piece. But just an amazing story kind of surrounding McDonald's ice cream machine. Andy Greenberg, senior writer at Wired, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun to talk about it.
Thanks for